If you respond in fear, you will attract fear parallel realities into your life. It is a choice. If you are open and investigate your beliefs around this idea about why you fear open contact, why you would fear alien species or civilizations, you may better align yourself and choose the reality that you prefer. For you create it all.
Our guest today is Wang, a channel and spiritual explorer whose journey began with intense emotional release and led to profound contact with higher beings, including the Arcturians and Sha'Shaina from Esasani. York now shares their wisdom, tools, and love to inspire others. York, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure having you on today. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm very excited about having you on today. You're the first channeler that I bring here. So thank you again for making time. Now,
Of course.
I'm really excited again to dive into your experiences and hopefully get some channeling today. But before
Mhm.
we go there, can you tell us a little bit about your life before your spiritual awakening?
Sure. I was pretty much a very normal kid. I was always into self development. My main focus before spirituality was all about making money. I started like Instagram back then, writing captions. I tried stocks, just anything I could do to make the American dream, so to speak. And part of what guided me onto the spiritual journey or opened up my idea of it was my brother actually going to India to become a monk. So that's what transitioned.
So, at this time, did you have any spiritual beliefs, any spiritual backgrounds that you were raised with?
Yeah, back then we were Christian. So my family would go to church and every Sunday, but it wasn't like crazy thing where it was forced upon us, but more so just like a community type of thing.
I understand 100%. I was raised Catholic, so I know where you're coming from. But let's
Mhm.
fast forward to 2020 during the pandemic and the lockdown. Can you walk us through what happened for you during that time?
During COVID, it was a very tough time for me personally. Just emotionally, you're like locked away from everyone. You can't see any of your loved ones or like friends. And that kind of led me to become very depressed. And what happened was that I stumbled across this releasing technique called the Sedona method, among other things. And then that became my complete obsession. So after doing that, releasing 8 hours, 14 hours a day, doing nothing but releasing, eating, and sleeping pretty much, and working a part-time job. Eventually, I reached a interesting state where sensations would begin to bubble up in my body. And it was during that time when I was contacted by Arcturians. I was having a regular dream, and then I was pulled into a lucid dream. And then it was, I saw them as like a beam of light, and they just sat me down and then showed me these holographic images and concepts and ideas. And it's just so astounding, like how beautiful and how much information was packed in there without anything being said verbally. And the day after that, I came across an article that one of my friends showed me at the time. And it was an article about Arcturians, and it had the exact principles that I saw in the dream. So that marked the beginning of my contact with other races.
So, how did that change your perception in reality?
It went from just the physical world, like everything seemed so real to me at that time. I was very emotional as a kid, very attached to how others perceived me. But then after releasing and after that experience with the Arcturians, it started shifting from this idea of the world being very real and the only reality to maybe it's just one of the realities.
Now, was that when you first started having contacts with the Arcturians? Did you have any contacts after that? How did that transpire?
Yeah, so I first made contact with Arcturians. They taught me through series of dreams, and also I began receiving their messages through just regular daily life. And it would first come in very small bits of intuition, just like do this thing. This person needs a healing, something like that. And then at first, obviously, you don't know what's going on. You're like, okay, I might be going crazy, but I'm gonna just try it, whatever. And then the stuff I was doing for healing, it worked for me and my family. And then I started doing it for coworkers. And then my neighbor came to me with something called cervicular dystonia, which is like a condition where they can't move their head a certain amount. They went to the doctors, they couldn't figure out what was going on. For years, he had this problem. And then I just listened to my guides. I placed my hand on him, sat him through. Pretty much, he was healed within 2, 3 days. So that was what sealed the deal for me on like, okay, whatever I'm doing, it has some validity to it.
That's amazing. And it's also awesome that you follow through on your intuition and in a way the voices that you were hearing in your head, because
Yeah.
I know that many people, myself included, tend to question, like, am I going crazy? No, don't do that, lady. You're crazy. Stop it. So it's easy for someone to doubt what's
Mhm.
coming through because at least the way that I get messages is like the voice or sounds very similar to my voice. So
Yeah.
that's why to me it's easy to question it. Is that the same for you?
It definitely comes, I would say it comes in your own voice that's not too crazy because part of it is like they're speaking through you, but through your consciousness. So you're attuning your own consciousness to mold to the shape of what their consciousness is. And then through that resonance, you're connecting the messages. So although it's in your voice, typically if it's from another source, then it will have a different energy accompanying it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that. I know that someone out there is probably wondering the same thing. Now, do you still work with the Arcturians for the healings that you do? And I also wanted to ask, who is Shashina and how did you make contact with this new being?
Yeah. Arcturians, I still do work with them. I work with them now more so just specifically on energy tools. So what energy tools are is basically a set of processes or mechanisms that allows you to replicate certain effects or spiritual processes. So currently one of the fields and tools that I'm working on is like reproducing certain dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, like these more physical chemicals through the energy. And as for Shashina, he's from Esasani, which is another civilization. And I met him through mostly after working with Arcturians. So I worked with Arcturians for a bit. I worked with Ascended Masters. And then after that, naturally, they just came to me.
How did you notice the difference between the energies of the Arcturians and Shashina? How did you know? When was that moment that you realized there was another being then wanting to make contact with you?
Yeah, it's actually not that difficult to tell the difference, especially since I worked with energy very often at that point. The Arcturians come in more as like a sharpness, and Shoshana is a bit more on the softer, warmer side, I would say.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for clarifying that as well. Now, do you think that we would be able to do some channeling and bring through Shashina?
Yeah, of course.
before we go there, can you tell us a little bit about your process of connecting and how that works for you?
Sure. The way I connect now is just setting the intention pretty much and then merging my energy with their energy. So, in a sense, I just become tuned to their resonance and frequency, and the messages come through.
Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and get ready for that.
It might take me a little minute.
Take your time.
Greetings. How are you doing in this day as you experience time and space?
Very good. Excited to meet you.
Our pleasure. How may
Thank
we facilitate this conversation?
Shashina, thank you so much for being with us. What message does the collective need to hear right now, especially when we are about to start a new year?
We have mentioned in past transmissions that this is a time of civilization contact, where open contact is near. As you have seen, certain information about drones, UFOs, have been coming up to the surface more recently. This is a sign, a test to see if you will allow yourself to align to realities more open to contact. For the choice is yours. If you respond in fear, you will attract fear parallel realities into your life. It is a choice. If you are open and investigate your beliefs around this idea about why you fear open contact, why you would fear alien species or civilizations, you may better align yourself and choose the reality that you prefer. For you create it all. Thank you.
Thank you. How can we, as humans, prepare for contact, and how can we move past the fear that some may have of connecting?
As we have mentioned, this boils down to your beliefs. Your beliefs are creating your reality. Your beliefs have a specific frequency, and the frames of reality, the timeline, the time track of reality as you perceive it, also has a specific frequency. So when the frequencies match, that means you automatically go towards that particular time track, timeline. So by investigating your beliefs, when you feel fear, you can ask yourself, what would I have to believe to be true for me to feel this fear? And certain ideas could be, I'm afraid that they'll take over us. I'm afraid alien species do not have their best interests. Now, you can further investigate, why do I have these fears? Is it because of stories within collective consciousness, movies that depict fear and domination? Are those human ideas, or are those actual alien descriptions? Or are those projections of human consciousness? That is up for you to decide.
Thank you. Speaking of contacts and UFOs, what can you tell us about the drones in New Jersey?
We can tell you that they are a mix. They do include ET technology, but are not necessarily piloted by ETs. That's all we can say for now.
Should we expect more contact in 2025 and beyond?
Yes, particularly 2027 to 2036 is a time of most open contact, where it's most likely to occur. Now, you may experience the idea slightly before or slightly after, but that is more on an individual level.
Is that why I've heard others say that it's going to be 2026, others 2027 in different years because it really depends on how ready the collective is for that contact to happen?
Correct. It's both a individual idea and a collective idea, multidimensional. It's not black or white.
Thank you so much for that. I also wanted to ask, I know that you talk you like to share messages about aligning with your higher self to manifest the life that you want, that you prefer. Can you give us certain messages, certain ideas, or tips to, or exercise for us to reach and manifest the life that we want?
The biggest idea, the overarching idea that we've been giving to your collective as of such, has been the idea of the excitement formula. Now, the excitement formula contains this: one, follow your excitement to the highest degree at any possible moment. Two, do this without any insistence or resistance to the outcome. Three, remain in a positive state no matter what happens. Four, whenever negative beliefs come up, investigate them, look at them. Is it what you prefer? And if not, then release them and choose something new, more in alignment with who you want to be. And five, repeat. Once you take these steps, you are automatically aligning yourself with your higher mind, creating the perfect reality for you, raising your vibration in the fastest way possible. And the way that works in mechanics is that as you raise your frequency by following your excitement, what you do is raise in frequency, and whatever limiting beliefs that are not in alignment or are no longer compatible with the frequency that you're emitting will begin to show up, begin to bubble up into your awareness, into your life circumstances for you to investigate. And when that happens, you have the choice whether or not you want to stay the same or choose something new. Expand. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to go back to one of those steps that you mentioned. You said to remain in a positive state. Right now, given the current state of the world, many things are going on in different countries. That's being broadcasted in the news. And it may be challenging to keep your vibration high, especially when those things are going on. And many people may say, but why is this happening? Why is that happening? Can you give us a little bit of context on the certain dualities that are currently going on and what we can do besides of these steps to maintain a vibration high regardless of what we see in the news?
All right. The main idea is, although we validate that these experiences are certainly not what most of the collective prefer, the fact that it's occurring means that it's something that needs to happen in order for you to transcend these ideas in the future. Something you have to look at to transmute within your own collective consciousness. Now, the idea is that all things are fundamentally neutral. You don't know how a certain idea, circumstance will lead to new experience in the future. You don't know how these things will transform and play out. To say something is bad currently is making a judgment from your current point of view, such as the idea of perhaps getting burned once by touching the stove might trigger events in the future where you're more careful in burning down the house, so to speak. So the idea is, by facing these things, by understanding that the reality is all an illusion, the things that are happening now at a larger scale can be simply seen as things to be accepted, to be looked at within your own consciousness. Understanding what beliefs you have around these ideas, perhaps judgment. These people must be bad because they're fighting. Ideas of hate, domination. These people are being suppressed. And while these may be true in experience, once again, At the core, everyone is creating their own reality. And the fact that they're creating it means that there is something to be gained and to be gleaned from that situation. And by invalidating it, you are not allowing yourself to see the beauty, the good that can come out of it. Any other clarifications on that topic?
Yes, people may feel pain when they see certain things in the news. What can that person do to, in a way, help a little bit? Say a light worker is watching that. What can that person do to help the collective move past that?
All right. The best thing you can do is follow your excitement. The reason why that is because you function as a whole when you do so. You are tapped into your higher mind. Certain ideas will come to you on how to best help the collective as a whole. By being your most individual self, your most unique self, you are playing your part, your role on this earth at this time. So, by following your excitement, you will naturally be guided in ways to best help the collective. And by raising your frequency, you will essentially change the reality that you're in. Now, that's not saying that if you can help your reflections, you shouldn't do so. Rather, it's just understanding that by changing yourself, you change your reality.
Some people may be waking up spiritually and they don't know what's going on. They don't know how to handle all the energy that's coming in. They don't know what to do with it. What advice would you give to someone going through a spiritual awakening and they don't know what to do? They don't know what's going on. They don't know about aliens. They don't know anything about spirituality. How would you guide them towards the light?
All right. It's not necessarily of most importance for you to understand the ideas about aliens in your own spiritual growth. However, if that resonates with you, that is certainly a permission slip and a way for you to grow in consciousness and awareness. The idea is you attract permission slips that are perfect for you when you follow your excitement. And what permission slips are is that any ritual, any idea, any concept, any practice, technique, object are simply a reflection of your consciousness, a reflection that allows you or gives yourself the permission to change. But in the end, it is you making that change. It is you giving yourself permission to change. So, although these ideas of practices can create the idea of changing over time, what's actually happening is that you're deciding to change moment to moment, a little bit more each time. And at some point, you'll decide that you have changed completely. But permission slips are essentially whatever is best for your beliefs and framework in this current point in time. Do you notice that in different phases of your life, you're attracted to different ideas and different things?
Yes.
That's simply a reflection of the permission slips that you have used for yourself.
Thank you. Shoshana, do you have any last messages for the audience before we bring the channel back?
All we have to say is follow your excitement. It is a time of change. This is a very important time for you all. In changing and investigating your beliefs, you will allow yourself to align to realities that are more pleasurable, more beneficial for you in the sense of your personality structure, as all things are beneficial, even if some things may appear to be painful. That is all.
Thank you, Shoshana. Can you bring the channel back?
All right. Aveo.
Welcome back.
Hello.
Hi, how do you feel?
I feel great.
How was that? Do you remember anything about the conversation?
I remember bits and pieces, but not like the whole thing.
Okay, so I guess it would
Yeah.
come back when you watch the video, I'm
Yeah.
assuming, right? And
Yes.
I don't know if you just noticed, my lights here are blinking and blinking. And that happened like about, I want to say 10, 15 minutes into the channeling, my light started blinking. So
Awesome.
thank you. All
Yeah.
right. So, how does it feel coming back from the channeling session, coming back from that state?
I feel pretty good actually. It's more empowering or
Mhm.
lighter than normal consciousness.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've listened to other channelists before, and some say that what transpires for them while the channeling is occurring is that they are sometimes sitting on a bench park. They're there, they know what's going on. Others hear the words before they come out.
Mm.
Others like are completely gone. How is that for you?
For me, it's like I'm in a dream
Hmm.
and like I'll remember bits and pieces of what's being said, but not the complete thing.
Understand. Now, that was an amazing channeling session. Thank you again so much for bringing Shoshana with us. I wanted to bring you back to your life, just looking back at your life before your spiritual awakening and now. How
Mm.
has that experience and the contacts with the galactic beings, how has that changed you as a person?
I mean, it kind of feels like I live a double life at times, just because at one point you're going to college, and then
Hmm.
another side you're like speaking and learning from galactic beings, right? But as a person, I think I'm pretty much the same person, like at least personality wise. I still joke about silly things, hang out with friends and all that. I just experience things on an emotional and consciousness level very differently. Yeah.
Okay. Question about your family and friends. Well, I guess your family was open to spirituality because your brother decided to become a monk.
Yeah.
But what was the reaction when you told them, "Hey, this is what I do"?
I think they were skeptical about it, which is fair,
Mhm.
totally fair. Yeah. And then I think I pulled them closer to the side after I started healing them and the people around.
And your friends were like, "Oh, that's totally normal. That's just him being himself."
Yeah, I don't talk about any of this with, like, friends or anything like that.
Yeah, fair enough,
Yeah.
fair enough. Your many people that have had spiritual awakenings, they go through maybe not necessarily depression, but a dark time, the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
Their life falls apart. Did that happen to you?
Yes. It happened. I had 2 of them, but I think the reason why that happens, though, is slightly different than what many people think. I
Mhm.
think part of it is, like, yes, deeper you go into darkness, the quicker you'll rubber band into light, so to speak. I think the other part is just that you're very resistant to the changes that are happening. So let's say you have a change in consciousness, but you still want to keep your same hobbies, your own vices, so to speak. The harder you try to latch onto those things, the darker it will get until you let go of them.
Just like they say, it's harder to hold on to it than to let go. In a spiritual sense, because I mean, let's be honest, it's a pretty tough choice. Your many people again are probably going through what you went through back in 2020 and what I went through back in 2012.
Mhm.
Um, their lives are falling apart. They don't know what to do. They can't find the light. They feel like they are in the middle of a storm
Yeah.
and they just cannot find that light to guide them through. What advice would you give that person?
I think I'll go back to what Shoshana usually says, which is just
Mhm.
follow your excitement. It doesn't have to be something big. Like if in the moment all you want to do that you're happy about doing is reading a book or listening to music, go do that. The more you do that, the more you train yourself to be happier and the more you're opening up to the world, so to speak.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that message. Can you tell us a little bit about your current projects that you have, the YouTube channel, the tools that you're developing? Can you talk to us about that and how we can get to it and find
Yeah,
you?
sure. So some of the projects I'm working on right now on the energy tool side, I made
Hmm.
a couple things. One is the Chamber of Intelligent Infinity. That one's really complex. It involves certain geometries that are multidimensional, like the infinity sphere, the Merkaba, the Tesseract, things like that. You can find more about it in my Discord. And in my Discord, I also have free tools such as pure relaxation. And what that does is facilitate muscle relaxation as well as tell the um, parasympathetic system to relax directly.
Hmm.
Yeah, so all those things can be found in my Discord. My YouTube is Illuminate Network.
Okay. And what type of content are you creating on YouTube?
I think on YouTube, I might release some channeling sessions. I'm thinking more so of putting up some of the free energy tools that I offer also.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. And is there any other place where people could find you, or the Discord and the YouTube would be the perfect place to see you?
Yeah, Discord, YouTube, and if they need to reach out, they can reach out at illuminatedhealings@gmail.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, I wanted to go back to your healings real quick. Do you
Mhm.
offer healing sessions at the moment, or is that maybe coming hopefully later down the road for you?
Yeah. I actually don't offer that at the moment. They're mostly in the tools themselves now.
Okay. Before we
Mhm.
go, can you leave the audience with one last positive message?
Sure. I think during these times, it's easy to feel like you're unloved, you're unworthy, or that it's just a very dangerous time. And I just want to say that if you exist, that means the universe loves you. Otherwise, you just wouldn't be here. So, yeah.
Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you again so much for that message. And thank you for coming on this show. York, it was an amazing pleasure having you on today. And thank you again for bringing Shashina through.
Thank you so much for having me.